Hey guys, I'm a Dimension Jumper, and today I'll be ranking all of the god bosses from God of War 2018 and Ragnarok from worst to best. Now, the God of War games, I would say, are pretty well known for their fights, especially with the fight against all the different gods you fight, whether that's in the original games or in the most recent games, that being the 2018 God of War game and Ragnarok, and with the more recent games, are all take they both take place in Norse mythology, and in this video I'll just be ranking all of the gods that you fight that you fight throughout both games, from my least favorite to my favorite. So yeah, so to start off with number five being the worst, it's probably Odin. Um, and I think, like, with his fight, it's kind of interesting because, like, it's kind of similar to how the border fight works, where you go from different locations, but it's mainly with the Odin fight. It's mainly two places, that being the um near the end of where Asgard is, where the main hut is, and then underneath the ground where the rift is. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. Kind of reminds me of the border fight, but I feel like this fight does take a bit too long to do. I think it's mainly because there's a lot of stuff that happens. Because it begins exactly after the moment that you've had your fight with Thor, and then you fight him, and then he traps you, and then Freya traps him, and then it's all of these other stuff that happens, and then finally you go into the final phase, and it's just, yeah, it feels a bit too long, and I feel like if they just cut out a few bits here and there, probably around the halfway point, maybe with where I don't know, cause like it just feels a bit too long, and yeah, it could have been a bit better maybe. So yeah, for number four is the Magni and Modi fight. Now, this fight it's really fun fight because this is probably the only double god fight that you do in both games, and I think it's a really interesting way of fighting gods, and how to do a sort of tag team sort of thing, because either Magni or Modi will focus on one of you, and the other one will focus on Atreus, and yeah, it's a really interesting fight, and I do like some of the parts of the fight where they sort of tag team and sort of create this sort of small thundercloud thing, and they sort of like do the sort of fake out attacks and stuff like that, and it's really interesting and it's really fun. I feel like this is a bit too short, I would say, like, because you only fight them once, and obviously because it's God of War, they are basically in the Kratos firing range of being dead gods. And maybe if we like fought them maybe like a bit out. Well, I don't know, because of I think Magni, he gets his face split in two by Kratos, and it's like, maybe if there's like a small encounter, just a tiny encounter, maybe like before it, like, or we do get a sort of a small encounter afterwards with Modi. It just feels like the fight as a whole feels, it just feels a bit small, and it feels like there could have been at least a little bit of potential for a bit more, maybe. But that's just my personal opinion. For number three is the Thor fights. Now, this is a really interesting, because you fight Thor twice throughout Ragnarok, towards the beginning and towards the very end, and those fights are really interesting because those two fights feel, even though they're sort of the same, they're very different. Because with the first fight, you are unaware, you don't really know Thor's moves, and I do like how it's just back to back blows, and just how both Kratos and Thor just trade blows to each other, whether that's with their fists or with their specific weapons. With Thor it's Mjolnir, and with Kratos it's the Leviathan axe. And yeah, it's really fun. They're both really fun. I do enjoy all those fights, and yeah, I think it's and I do like how in the second fight, both Kratos and Mimir try to reason with him for a bit, because fighting and battling is what Thor no yeah what Thor probably knows about, and Kratos knows the same thing because he knows nothing but rage, and he has to fight all the gods back in Greece. And I do like how both Kratos and Mimir try and reason with Thor a bit, and he is not really listening to them because he's mainly just listening to Thor, not to Thor, to Odin, and he's kind of Odin's lapdog in a way. And I do like how at the end of the fight he just kind of, I feel like he understands a whole lot more of what's happening and what's going on about him and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the Thor fights are really really fun, and I think they're probably some of the best fights in the game. For number 2 is the Heimdall fight. Now this fight I do enjoy because it kind of you kind of get to see some of the building blocks of how the Heimdall works. Because when you first meet him, he's shown to be this huge asshole to anyone and everyone that he meets, and yeah, he's kind of like he's kind of a fun. It's an interesting character, I would say, and I do like how as I said before, he's shown to be this massive asshole, because he can read minds, and I do like how you give him a taste of his own medicine in a way when you fight him, because you're given a new weapon in the game, which I won't spoil too much of. But I do like how when you use it, he's not really expecting how it works and how it can be used. Because when you first introduced to Heimdall, Odin says that he thinks for him and that he sometimes forgets to think himself. So I do like how with the new weapon it kind of puts his mind into overdrive a bit. So yeah, and it's kind of giving him a bit of his own medicine. Like, what can the guy that can read minds do against something that is meant to put him into overdrive and stuff like that? So yeah, and it just it feels like a good fight to just as it plays out and stuff like that. So yeah, it kind of reminds me if someone like Baldur was more arrogant and more self-centered. He's kind of like that to me personally. So yeah. And for number 1 are the Baldur fights. Now with Baldur, I think he's an interesting sort of good first main villain in terms of setting up the new God of War universe sort of thing, because Baldur is I do like how he's sort of like arrogant, because he's invulnerable. He can't be hurt by anyone or anything, and you are shown this throughout his first encounter, and I think he's just, because he's got this invulnerability to anything and everything that's thrown at him, he's just kind of like just walks up to someone and just starts to pick a fight with them, and knowing he can't be hurt. And throughout his fights, I think it gets progressively, like the stakes get more high, because the first time you fight him, it's like you don't really know who he is or where he's from. There are some references here and there to Odin and Thor and stuff like that. But then as the story goes on, you find out more about Baldur, and then with the very final fight, it feels so cool because that's when both Kratos and Atreus combine into one powerhouse of a team. And I do like how towards the end of the fight, you see both Kratos and Atreus just doing an all-out brawl on him, and where I think Kratos uses I think either his hands or the Leviathan axe, and Atreus just using his bow just to hit him on the face. And I feel like that's so cool because I think Boulder is the reason. Because like I remember I watched a video. I think it's from. I think it was talking about the 2018 game. I'll probably put a screenshot on screen somewhere. But in the video, it says that Boulder is the reason why Kratos and Atreus sort of had to go on this journey of them spreading Faye's ashes on the highest peak, and because of that particular encounter at the beginning of the game, Kratos and Atreus are now a tag team duo that can't be stopped, and I do really like that. So yeah, but overall, Baldur is a really interesting fight, or villain, and I do like how his fights are just pure chaos and just chaotic and stuff like that when you do fight him throughout the course of the game. So yeah, I think Baldur is probably my favorite villain in the God of War games, and he has some really awesome fights. So that's been me ranking the God of War 2018 and Ragnarok God boss fights. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.